I feel the heaviness you carry. I see the way it's hard to breathe. The weight of the past prevents your hope and liberty. I hear the faithful call of justice. The Spirit is moving for you now, crying aloud that debt must be released somehow. Set free, jubilee, rejoice, rejoice. May that be the sound of your freedom. Rejoice. The Spirit is on me to join the voice of peace. May captives be released in this year of Jubilee. Jubilee. All of our names have a prayer behind them. All of our voices rise in song. This is a vision that has roots so deep and strong. Set free, jubilee. Rejoice, rejoice. May that be the sound of your freedom. Rejoice. The Spirit is at hand to guide returning land. So on their feet they stand in this year of Jubilee. 100,000 names is a prayer for this day of hope. Rejoice, rejoice. May that be the sound of your freedom. Rejoice. The Spirit is on me to join the voice of peace. May captives be released in this year. The Spirit is on me to join the voice of peace. May captives be released in this year of Jubilee. Jubilee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Turn Debt into Hope, the Road to Ottawa. My name is Luke Stocking, and I am the Director of Public Engagement at Development and Peace, Caritas Canada. I want to start by just sharing a few details before we get started on interpretation. We do have simultaneous interpretation between French and English for our main speakers. And as your guide, I'll indicate when the interpretation is option and ready. And a warm welcome and thank you to Isabel, our interpreter tonight. So a few details. You have to be joined via the computer audio to participate in the interpretation session. Within the Zoom window, look for the interpretation icon. It's a little globe usually in the toolbar located at the bottom of the window. And if you don't see the interpretation option in your toolbar, try clicking the More button to look for the interpretation icon. Once the interpretation button is clicked, you'll want to select the language you want to listen to the webinar in, French or English. And it's as simple as that. Alors, un grand bienvenue à tout le monde. Bienvenue à ce webinaire, Transformer la dette en espoir, en route à Ottawa. Je suis Luke Stocking, je suis le directeur d'engagement public chez Développement et Paix, Caritas Canada. Et comme je viens de dire en anglais, la session aujourd'hui est un webinaire Zoom avec la traduction simultanée et juste quelques précisions sur l'interprétation. Pour participer à l'interprétation, vous devez être contacté via l'audio de l'ordinateur et non par le téléphone. Dans la fenêtre Zoom, cherche l'icône interprétation, un globe, dans la barre des outils située vers les bas de la fenêtre. Et aussi, si vous ne voyez pas l'option interprétation dans votre barre des outils, essayez de cliquer sur le bouton plus pour chercher l'icône interprétation. Une fois que vous avez cliqué sur le bouton interprétation, vous devez sélectionner la langue dans laquelle vous souhaitez participer. Et ça, c'est tout. Et aussi, pour votre information, ce webinaire sera enregistré. Une fois que nous aurons commencé, la participation sera mise sur ligne. Vous pouvez utiliser le chat pour dire bonjour à tout le monde et alors, oui, vas-y d'utiliser le chat. Mais le chat aussi, il sera désactivé pendant la présentation principale. So just for your information, also, the webinar is being recorded. And once we get started, we will mute the participants throughout. But you can use the chat at any time, and please go ahead and use it now to say hello if you wish. We'll turn the chat off during the main presentations, but mostly it will be on. At this point, I'm going to invite Shannon to lead us in a land acknowledgement. Over to you, Shannon.
Thanks, Luke. Some of the words that I am using have been adapted from words shared by my colleague, Connor Sarrazin. So before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional territories of the Indigenous people across Turtle Island. We thank them for allowing us to meet and learn together on their territories. I live on the territory of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. That makes me part of the covenant. I acknowledge this to the original caretakers of this land, to all that was here for thousands of years before us across Turtle Island. We honor the struggles and the lives of those who gave themselves for it. For all those here today, we acknowledge the ancestors beneath our feet and the land on which we stand. With our ears to the ground, we can hear them. The Cree Nation, the Métis, the Dene, the Anishinaabe, the Dakota and Lakota nations, the Inuit, the Blackfoot, the Innu, and all the nations that came before us, and those yet to come. An infinity of footsteps of those who long called this land home, the unfolding of bundles, the undoing of colonization, and the opening of this land to allow treaty to come alive. We affirm our relationship to each other and to the land. We acknowledge and pay respects to the Indigenous nations and ancestors of this land, where I am particularly honoring the Huron-Wendat, Seneca, and Mississaugas of the Credit Indigenous peoples.
On commence maintenant avec une petite prière d'ouverture. Et j'ai choisi un passage de la Bible qui me parle de l'esprit de jubilé. Et ça, c'est le passage dans la Bible, dans l'évangile de Luc, c'est la Magnificat. Alors, mon âme exalte le Seigneur, exalte mon esprit en Dieu, mon Sauveur. Il s'est penché sur son âme servante. Désormais, tous les âges me diront bienheureuse. Le Puissant fit pour moi des merveilles. Saint est son nom. Son amour s'attend d'âge en âge sur ceux qui le craignent. Déployons la force de son bras, il disperse le superbe. Il renverse le puissant de leur trône. Il élève les humbles. Il comble des biens les affamés. Renvoie les riches les mains vides. Il relève Israël son serviteur. Il se souvient de son amour, de la promesse faite à nos pères en faveur d'Abraham et de sa race à jamais. Gloire au Père et au Fils et au Saint-Esprit pour les siècles des siècles. Amen. On commence aussi maintenant avec une petite introduction des 5 organisations qui fait de cette coalition pour cette belle campagne. Ça fait 14 mois qu'on s'est mis en ligne pour lancer la campagne Jubilee, transformer la dette en espoir au Canada. Que tu sois ici pour la première fois ou que tu nous aies déjà rendu visite une demi-douzaine de fois depuis, tu es le bienvenu. Tous les 25 ans, les catholiques célèbrent une année jubilaire, un moment de renouveau spirituel qui s'inscrit naturellement dans une période d'action en faveur d'annulation de la dette. Au sein de la communauté catholique, on a commencé à discuter plus d'un an à l'avance de la manière de profiter de ce moment du calendrier liturgique pour s'engager pleinement en faveur de la justice en matière de dette. La justice en matière de dette est essentielle pour bon nombre de nos partenaires mondiaux et tout progrès que nous pouvons accomplir dans ce sens a un impact direct sur la communauté avec laquelle nous travaillons. Avec le secrétariat international de notre confédération, Caritas, prête à accueillir la campagne internationale, nous avons cherché des partenaires pour la campagne canadienne.
Kairos really had its beginnings in the Millennial Jubilee of 1998 to 2001. 10 coalitions with their overlapping church memberships all supported that phenomenal campaign run by the Canadian Ecumenical Jubilee Initiatives. And in 2001, 25 years ago, those 10 coalitions became Kairos, Canadian Ecumenical Justice Initiatives. In 2024, a good look at that history and the biblical mandate of Jubilee helped us to see that this campaign, the Jubilee Turn Debt into Hope campaign, touched on all of the Kairos work areas and is about so much more than debt cancellation. It is about right relationships between people and between people and the land for the flourishing of all life.
The Council of Churches was a leader in serving as the institutional home for the Millennial Canadian Ecumenical Jubilee Initiative. And with the endorsement of the Commission on Justice and Peace, we are happy and have been happy to support the 2025 Jubilee Turn Debt into Hope campaign. We have been keen to bring the message of debt justice to all of our 25 members. Our membership represents 85% of the Christians in Canada, and we are here in solidarity with the biblical call for justice.
The Office of Religious Congregations for Integral Ecology, ORCE, is where the Catholic religious are working together to increase impact on policy change, seeking a renewed dialogue about how we are shaping the future of our planet. Part of that conversation, a big part of this campaign, is about ecological debt. Pope Francis has said, another heartfelt appeal I would make is directed to more affluent nations. I ask that they acknowledge the gravity of so many of their past decisions and determine to forgive the debts of countries that will never be able to repay them. Together, we are amplifying this call.
Citizens for Public Justice, or as many of you know as CPJ, seeks human flourishing and the integrity of creation as our faithful response to God's call for love and justice. We envision a world in which individuals, communities, societal institutions, and governments all contribute to and benefit from the common good. By now, I hope that you all know the calls of the global petition, which are to cancel unjust and unsustainable debt, reform the financial system, and build a debt framework at the UN. But do you know the related asks of the Canadian government? They're as follows. One, initiate a review of all bilateral debts held by Canada and cancel those identified as Canadian debts without any conditions. Two, advocate for global financial reform and the UN Framework Convention on Sovereign Debt in multilateral forums like the G7 and G20. And finally, increase the grants portion of Canada's bilateral climate finance. And this third ask is particularly important to us at CPJ since we have been advocating for grant-based climate finance for years now, and we've been happy to support this larger coalition to work for fair climate finance in the context of global financial reform.
We're going to look a little bit at network engagement. Hearing from these 5 organizations, we have a good reason to celebrate. À l'écoute de ces 5 organisations, nous avons toutes les raisons de nous réjouir. En travaillant main dans la main, nous partageons un objectif commun. Au cœur de la mobilisation, du plaidoyer et de l'engagement de nos membres, nous vivons dans un esprit synodal, un appel à partager la vie qui naît lorsque nous reconnaissons le Christ sur les visages de ceux qui souffrent à cause des structures d'injustice. Ce n'est pas une tâche facile. Parler des causes profondes de la dette injuste ou des réformes financières nécessaires pour la transformer en espoir. Nous avons ce soir parmi nous des personnes qui ont osé d'exprimer au sein de leur communauté et recueillir des signatures qui ont contribué à notre total on va voir plus tard. Nous avons Juan Manuel Medina from Montreal, Parish of St. Richards. We have second witness is Mariana Hala Joanna Kate Mariana from Mother Teresa Secondary School in Ontario. And the third witness we have tonight with us is Hélène Papa Thomas. Alors, on va commencer avec Juan Manuel qui va nous parler. On est à l'écoute.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Kim. Je pensais à cette campagne, il y a eu quelques difficultés. La première et plus difficile pour moi, ça a été de me convaincre moi-même. Pourquoi est-ce qu'une dette qui a été contractée ne devrait pas être honorée? Et après réflexion et grâce aux formations de développement et paix, je me suis dit, ce n'est pas une dette, c'est un dédommagement parce que les pays les plus endettés, ceux qui ont souffert le plus du changement climatique, sont ceux qui en contribuent le moins. Donc, en réalité, en premier lieu, ce n'est pas une dette, c'est un dédommagement. Après, il y a eu la lettre des évêques du Canada qui parlait aussi dans le même sens, c'est-à-dire une dette devrait être honorée d'après l'enseignement de l'Église, mais il y a des dettes injustes, des dettes qui ne devraient pas exister. Et je suis d'origine mexicaine et je pensais à un exemple. À une certaine époque au Mexique, les paysans qui travaillaient pour un patron étaient obligés d'acheter dans son magasin. Et donc, son petit salaire, il devait le dépenser dans un magasin extrêmement cher. Donc, il s'était toujours en dette et cette dette était était héritée aux enfants et aux petits-enfants de génération en génération pour toujours. Donc, c'est une dette qui provoque une sorte d'esclavage. Donc, c'est une dette injuste et par conséquent, une dette qui ne devrait pas exister. Et une autre difficulté que j'ai trouvée, c'est comment expliquer que le Canada, les États-Unis, tous les pays développés ont des grosses dettes, mais qu'on devrait pardonner les dettes aux pays pauvres. Mais ça a aussi été bien expliqué que une chose, c'est la dette interne qu'un pays contracte auprès de ses propres citoyens et une autre, une dette externe que, pour des raisons qu'on a déjà expliquées, un pays est obligé de contracter. Donc, grâce à ça, je pense que nous avons pu faire une belle campagne. C'est mon témoignage. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Juan Manuel. Et je voulais juste dire que Juan Manuel et moi, on a collaboré pour préparer un petit discours dans les paroisses, qui était vraiment un exercice en imagination pour bien comprendre les nuances les problèmes structurels de la dette. Alors, les prochains témoins, ça va venir de 5 élèves d'une école secondaire de Mother Teresa. C'est Mariana, Ala, Joanna, Kate et Mariana. Bienvenue. On est à l'écoute.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. We're going to talk a little bit about what this campaign means to us, so we all have a little bit of something to say. So in the fall, I had the privilege of attending the Ontario Conference of Faith Meets Pedagogy. At this conference, I had the opportunity to watch and speak at the Development and Peace presentation about the Turn Debt into Hope campaign. This campaign is so special to me because it has shown me that people do care and that students are passionate and open to change. Sometimes in today's world, it's easy to forget that people still care. It warms my heart to see all these people gathered together, fighting for a real cause that impacts so many people. This campaign has inspired me to keep educating myself and others on the influence we have. Even if our actions seem little, they can make the biggest impact.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna, and I'm so happy to share with you all my experiences with the Transforming Debt into Hope Autumn 2025 campaign. Alongside advocating the campaign with my peers to our school and community, I was involved with the Development and Peace Club's many events to promote the campaign, such as our Women's Day bake sale and our swap party used item exchange. To me, this campaign revealed the power of the community on a mission. Every cookie we sold and every hoodie we exchanged for a t-shirt was a statement, was a protest, that we refuse to accept a world where debt and injustice continue to leave marginalized populations in vulnerable situations. This campaign reminded me that there is hope in all of us, and when someone lights a match through action, that hope is rekindled. I hope moving forward, we can continue to keep this beacon of change alive.
Hello everyone, my name is Hala, and I was actively involved in the Turn Debt into Hope Lent campaign by helping raise awareness and encouraging others to support the cause. I played a major role in creating the posters and making sure that they were clear and visually engaging, and effectively explained why debt relief for poorer countries is so important. This helped grab people's attention and made the message much easier to understand. I also went to the church with my friend Kate, who's here with us today, to help promote the campaign and spread awareness to within the community, encouraging people to get more involved and support the petition. Being part of this campaign made me feel like I was contributing to something meaningful and supporting fairness and global justice in a real and effective way. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariana Moreno Flores, and being part of the Turning Debt into Hope campaign with Development and Peace has been incredibly meaningful to me. Through our social justice club, we've led outreach in our school and we were able to collect hundreds of signatures. But what impacted me the most was seeing how deeply students cared once they understood the issue, as well as their eagerness to help a cause like this. In September, I was invited to speak at a webinar with Development and Peace as well as other partners and had the privilege to share the work we've done at Mother Teresa Catholic Secondary School. That moment showed me that our efforts could inspire change beyond our own community, but that it is also a responsibility as human beings to stand up for what is right. To me, this campaign isn't just about signatures, but about giving people a voice and realizing that even small actions can be part of something so much bigger.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariana Cubillos, and I was involved in the Transforming Debt into Hope Autumn 2025 campaign by advocating for it in my school and my community, speaking with students, and encouraged them to sign petitions. Also, I raised awareness about the need for debt justice. Beyond what I did, what this campaign meant to me was much deeper. It opened my eyes to the struggles faced by countries burdened by unjust debt and showed me how even small actions can contribute to real change. It also connected me more deeply to my Catholic faith, reminding me of our call to compassion, seek justice, and stand with those in need. Being part of this movement made me feel like I was contributing to something greater than myself, a global effort supported by organizations like this to bring hope, dignity, and fairness to others. To me, it was a step forward in the right direction, allowing me to live out my Catholic graduate values in solidarity with like-minded individuals and be a part of meaningful change.
Bravo tout le monde, merci. C'était très, très pensif. Vous avez vraiment pensé beaucoup plus que juste ramasser des signatures. Alors, merci d'avoir partagé avec nous et félicitations. Alors, I'm going to invite the last witness for tonight. Her name is Hélène Papla-Thomas, and she's from Laval, from la paroisse Sainte-Rose.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Alors, Hélène Papla-Thomas, je suis très contente d'être ici avec vous. Ça fait une dizaine d'années que je fais partie de Développement et Paix en tant que représentante à la paroisse Sainte-Rose de Lima de Laval. Je participe aux campagnes, donc chaque année, campagne d'automne, la campagne de carême de partage et également la campagne de collecte de fonds par la vente de fromage à Noël. Alors, la campagne Transformer la dette en espoir, d'abord, j'ignorais ça, moi, que l'Église catholique remettait les dettes, donc ça m'a touché énormément. Et c'est ce qui m'a motivé à rencontrer notre député fédéral. Moi, j'habite la circonscription de Marc-Aurèle Fortin. Alors, j'ai une autre amie de Développement et Paix qui habite également la circonscription, qui est au sein de Développement et Paix également depuis une dizaine d'années. Et pour elle, Développement et Paix, c'est la réponse à tout. Donc, elle se nomme Carole Roberge. Alors, on a rencontré Carlos Letao et on lui a posé 3 questions. Alors, à la question, comment pouvez-vous nous aider à mettre en place un examen de toutes les dettes bilatérales détenues par le Canada, identifier celles qui sont insoutenables et les éliminer sans condition. Alors, il m'a répondu que le Canada n'avait presque pas de dette bilatérale actuellement, contrairement à celle du Jubilé 2000, parce que présentement, la condition géopolitique était extrêmement différente. Donc, à la deuxième question, on lui a demandé, comment pouvez-vous nous aider à plaider pour une réforme financière mondiale avec une convention cadre de l'ONU? Et il a répondu à l'intérieur des forums multilatéraux G7, G20, FMI, Banque mondiale, il nous a répondu que la seule personne qui pouvait vraiment mettre en place une politique viable était Monsieur Antonio Gutiérrez, mais son mandat se terminait au 31 décembre 2026. Donc, il nous a parlé de Madame Michelle Bachelet, mais qui a été démise par le président en mars 2026. Il nous a surtout parlé de Virginia Gamba. Il y a aussi Rebecca Greenspan, ancienne vice-présidente du Costa Rica, qui pourrait remplir ce rôle archi important à l'ONU. À la troisième question, augmenter la part des subventions dans le financement bilatéral du Canada pour le climat à un minimum de 60%. Et à veiller à ce que les subventions soient utilisées pour faire face aux pertes et aux dommages. Il a mentionné qu'il donnait principalement aux organismes qui s'occupaient de situations d'urgence dans les pays, par exemple les inondations, les tremblements de terre, etc. Donc, pour ce qui est de sa présence sur la colline parlementaire, il n'a pas fermé la porte, mais il y avait quand même là des obligations. Donc, c'est à suivre. En ce qui concerne la coupure d'aide internationale, humanitaire internationale, il nous encourage, c'est-à-dire que là, c'est ça, c'est des fonds pour l'urgence. Pour la remise des fonds au budget, il nous encourage à le faire en mai. Parce que le comité de consultation budgétaire est en amont évidemment pour le budget 2026-27. Donc, ça aura lieu à l'automne, nous encourage à déposer en mai. Et il a dit que les organismes développement et paix et tous les organismes qui agissaient dans le sens de rendre autonomes, donner des outils, les aider à se défendre, que ces organismes-là, leur enveloppe serait reconduite et qu'il n'y aurait pas de coupure. Alors voilà, donc en 2027. Donc j'espère que ces choses-là vont se réaliser concrètement, mais en tout cas, on a fait notre possible et puis je pense que la rencontre est porteuse. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Hélène. Très intéressant. C'est un pont, en fait, c'est un pont important à la prochaine sujet ce soir. C'est de la mise à jour de la plaidoyer.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much, Kim. Yes, thank you so much, everybody. That was a really hard act to follow, but I hope that you find what I have to report rather inspiring, because a lot has been happening on the advocacy front. My name is Cheryl McNamara, and I work with Kairos Canada, and I'm helping to facilitate the advocacy part of Turn Debt into Hope. So way back in 2025, the Turn Debt into Hope Coalition raised its voice boldly for debt justice. Together, church and Christian leaders across Canada sent letters to the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister, urging action for countries facing unjust debt. And that same year, our members brought this call into national and global advocacy spaces. Through the Civil Society 7 and the Women's 7 processes, our recommendations on debt justice were included in communiques presented to the G7 Sherpa ahead of the summit, the G7 summit in Alberta. And across the country, people like you helped collect tens of thousands of signatures for the global Turn Debt into Hope petition. These signatures did more than show support. They helped educate Canadians about the sovereign debt crisis and its deep connection to ecological debt. Thank you. In 2026, we took the next step. We launched a campaign to engage members of Parliament directly and put the sovereign debt crisis firmly on their radar. That has included meetings with members of Parliament on an online letter writing campaign that you're going to learn about in a few minutes, and a parliamentary paper petition. Already, more than 15 meetings with members of Parliament have happened, with several more scheduled. We've had productive and encouraging conversations, as you heard, with MPs whose portfolios are especially relevant to this issue. And several MPs have also agreed to present the paper petition in Parliament. In addition, we have submitted a request to the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development to study the sovereign debt crisis. And several key committee members have expressed support for this request. And in just 2 weeks, on April 28th, on Parliament Hill, MP Robert Oliphant, who is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and a former UCC minister, will co-sponsor an educational panel on the debt crisis for MPs. And on that same day at the public rally at 1 p.m., he and other MPs will also symbolically receive the final Canadian signature count for the global petition. As for the letter to MP campaign, 449 letters have already been sent to their MPs. This is 449 voices calling for justice. And this is how change grows. One letter, one meeting, one petition, one public witness at a time. If you have not sent your letter to your MP, no worries. This is now your opportunity during this rally right here, right now. We'd like you to use, say, another device or open up another window with the link that has just been placed in the chat. And that is the link to the letter that you can send to your MP. And we're going to give you just a few minutes to read it and fill it out while we play another original song written for the Turn Debt into Hope campaign. And this song is by George Johnson and Ben Johnson, who are with Intensive Care and also with the generous support from the Ross Stiles Legacy Fund of Kamloops United Church. If you've already sent your letter to your MP, thank you. Please open up your email or your social media and send it to 3 of your friends with the simple message, which is going to be placed in the chat. And now, time for the video and time for you to start writing your MP. Great, thank you. And a huge thanks to George and Ben for that wonderful song and the music video that they provided. Huge shout out to them. And for all of you, thank you for sending a letter to your MP. I noticed that last check, about 10 have already signed, and it's growing, so thank you so much. And with your help, we are really building momentum for Canada to play a meaningful role in advancing sovereign debt justice. So thank you so much for helping us to turn debt into hope. Kim, back to you.
The Canadian network is not alone in this work. Throughout this campaign and even before it, we've been collaborating with people around the world. So Kim and Beth are going to share a few connections.
Merci. Et je pense que je veux cette chanson pour toutes les pétitions, les lettres que j'envoie. J'aimerais bien entendre la chanson derrière moi. Merci beaucoup. Alors, les connexions mondiales. Un examen de notre présence mondiale dans le cadre de la campagne Transformer la dette en espoir met en lumière certains aspects de nos exigences, nos demandes en matière de la justice économique. Pour transformer la finance mondiale, nous avons besoin d'un espace où tous les pays sont invités à la table et sont sur un pied d'égalité. Et l'ONU est vraiment le seul endroit où cela peut se produire pour résoudre la question de la dette de manière permanente, transparente, intégrale et contraignante. En juin, des milliers de personnes ont défilé dans le cadre d'une campagne de marche organisée devant la conférence des Nations Unies sur le financement et du développement. C'était en Espagne. Il s'agissait à la fois d'une mobilisation et d'une dénonciation de certains pays qui continuent de maintenir leur emprise sur la dette des pays à faible et moyen revenu. Les accablant et perpétuant de la pauvreté. Mais malgré certaines déceptions lors de cette conférence, il y a eu un point positif. Cette manifestation a permis de garantir que les prochains forums accordent davantage de place aux organisations de la société civile qui dénoncent leur système économique injuste. Cet événement a mis en évidence le profond désir de la société civile de faire entendre sa voix au milieu de dizaines de milliers de délégués du secteur privé prenant des solutions fondées sur le marché pour résoudre la question de la dette. One of my favorite images of the global campaign was an image of advocacy officers of Caritas Internationalis meeting with the president of the World Bank and also the managing director of the International Monetary Fund. I thought to myself, what good could happen in this kind of meeting? And in this meeting, we asked that the cost of servicing debt could be brought lower. So those payments, those regular payments towards debt could be below 10% of a particular country's revenue from their gross domestic product, below 10%. This would go a long way to help countries, for example, like Ethiopia, with a whopping 44% of debt payments eating up their revenue from their agricultural products produced.
Thank you, Kim. Those are some wonderful moments, and there's been so many moments over the last year where debt justice brought communities together, showing the power of grassroots action to demand change. And we saw that in the streets at the G7 rally in Calgary, during the Relay of Hope across the country and in other countries worldwide, and in some of the events that Kim mentioned in Spain. Public pressure and moral clarity from advocates and faith leaders has helped open political spaces for change. As Kim mentioned, the fourth International Conference on Financing for Development didn't show maybe quick enough progress, but really governments there acknowledged the scale of the debt crisis, and there was a call for reform. In July, Catholic bishops, this is something that Juan mentioned earlier, the Catholic bishops in the Global South released a call for climate justice and our common home, urging the Global North to pay its social and ecological debts. At the Africa Climate Summit in September, faith leaders came together to declare that debt relief is not just economic policy, it is a moral imperative for climate justice. At the end of October, Scottish Parliament announced its support of the Turn Debt into Hope campaign, and the First Minister of Scotland stated, "In the face of global debt injustice, I am convinced that Scotland must continue to lead with compassion and conviction." This momentum was carried into the global decision-making spaces in November, like the G20 and at COP30, where the Turn Debt into Hope campaign handed over the global petition signatures to the president of COP30, bringing the voices of communities, bringing your voices worldwide into the heart of climate negotiations. At the African Union in February, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni put forward Italy's proposal for climate-related debt suspension for African countries, showing that solutions movements have long called for are gaining traction. Canada, too, is building these clauses into new bilateral loans and has been encouraging its G7 partners to adopt them. Now, we can be honest with ourselves and kind of notice that progress can feel slow. And we are still waiting for deep systemic changes needed to truly transform the global debt system. But these things that we've mentioned tonight, this is real momentum. Step by step, voice by voice, pressure is building from grassroots movements to global institutions. And together we are moving closer to a world where countries can invest in people and planet, not just in debt payments.
Thanks, Beth and Kim. The MP meetings, the potential standing committee debrief, the conversations with Finance Canada, it all started with a petition. The largest single petition Kairos has hosted this decade. Now, do you want to know how big it has grown? At the end of 2025, the year closed with 56,000 signatures. Was that all? By the end of January, there were 64,000 signatures. By the end of March, actually early March already, we had 67,000 signatures for Hope. And today, still growing, there are 70,527 signatures for Turn Debt into Hope. I think that's reason for applause. 70,527 signatures and still climbing. That's fully 1/3, 33% of the global petitions to date. Not too bad for a country whose population is 0.5% of the world's. And then there are the MP letters that have risen too while we were talking. Do you remember what Cheryl said? 449, and now I'm seeing 478. Thank you so much for adding those letters to our campaign and sending them off to your MPs. And so we are going to have these online signatures and letters growing for another week yet, but take note, now is the moment to send in your global paper petitions. You can mail them or you can email paper petitions so that they arrive at Development and Peace or Kairos by Monday, hopefully. So if you're going to do it by Canada Post, get it done tomorrow. We want to see those petitions so that we can count them all up and have them ready for when we go to Ottawa at the end of the month. So I want to give you a little picture. Just make sure that those instructions for Ottawa, excellent. For the petitions, check the chat if you need a reminder as to where those paper petitions need to go. We'll be watching for them. Now I want to give you a little picture of what will be happening in Ottawa at the end of the month. On April 27th, your faithful ambassadors will roll into Ottawa in trains and cars and gather at St. Peter's Lutheran Church by mid-afternoon. There, we will finish a couple dozen piggy banks. I know that in June at the People's Forum, you were probably seeing all kinds of pictures of piggy banks as piñatas. This time we'll use them a little differently as we show the scales of justice on Parliament Hill. So the Monday before, we'll finish up our piggy banks. We'll create some handheld signs. We'll combine our petition boxes and decorate them with the final numbers. You watch and see if it's bigger than what I just said, 70,527. And then Tuesday, we head to Parliament Hill. The wisdom of the House says that the time to talk to the MPs is 9 a.m. in the morning. So that is when our panel of experts from our coalition will be lining up to present to the hopefully bright-eyed MPs. So they'll have an hour to be able to lay out the case of turn debt into hope. And your letters that you just sent will be helping to get them into that meeting. Soon after, some of our team members will gather back at the church. We'll pick up our signs and our piggy banks, our information cards to hand out to people, and we'll start walking down Wellington Street, informing the public and building that momentum. I'm sure there will be lots of excitement when the students arrive. I'm sure you felt it even with the 5 of them here tonight. There's a whole bus full of Catholic high school students that will be coming from Toronto and joining us. Perhaps 100 people gathered on the lawn of Parliament Hill with our piggy banks stacked on the scales, showing the injustice and showing how the movement to justice could be. There'll be prayers and speeches, chants and movement to show the justice we want to see. In the end, the petition boxes will be handed over to MP Rob Oliphant, who is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And hopefully other MPs will be joining him there. That work is still in progress. And there'll be many cameras flashing and videos rolling. You will see it all via your favorite social media. Some in that moment and some in the days to follow. So do watch social media on Tuesday, April 28th. We think there'll be all kinds of media there. We just heard it'll also be a budget update, and we will work hard to link our requests to that budget update. So like our social media posts, share them, keep the momentum going, and tell your friends what's going on at Parliament Hill that day. April 28th is just 2 weeks away. And so I would invite us, now we are nearing the time to send off the ambassadors. I would invite everyone on the call, first of all, to turn on your cameras. And I would invite those who spoke today, all of the students and our all the volunteers who shared today, if you put up your hand for a moment, if you know where your reaction button is and your raise hand. Students, if you put up your hand for a moment and put on your cameras, it brings you onto the first page. And we're going to take a picture for all those who are willing. So if you don't want to be in the picture, turn your camera off. But if you're ready to be in a picture, we're going to do a little countdown, and John's going to take a picture for us. So 3, 2, 1, but we have to stay a little bit and smile because there are several screens. And just hold on, turn debt into hope. Thank you so much for doing that. Now I'm going to ask you to all take your hands down, and I'm going to ask for hands for something else. Could those who are going to be in Ottawa in person on April 28th put your hands up? There are a few of us that are staff from the coalitions and a few others. And so, everyone, I would invite you to hold us in your prayers and to think about the message that you would like to send to Ottawa through this group of people. And so I'd invite you to put a word in the chat. If you put just 1 or 2 words, we will make a word cloud out of them. If you want to put in a sentence or more, that's good too, and we will read them and we will save them. And so, what is your word of encouragement to those who are going to be in Ottawa, or a word that encapsulates what this campaign means to you? So I see we had one already, just peace. Excellent. Breakthrough. What is your word that encapsulates this campaign to you? While you are thinking of your word or your thought that you want to share with the group, I also want to give a shout out to the endorsers of this campaign. At the beginning of the session, you heard about the 5 core organizations who have been really organizing all the work of the campaign over 16 months. But I'd also like you to recognize all of these endorsers. So check it out. All of these different organizations are helping us to share the word about turn debt into hope. If you're part of them, if you know them, give them a thanks, give them a like on social media, and share the news. All right, so how's the chat going there? We are just about ready for the closing prayer. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for being with us. And now I will turn it over to Tanya, the Executive Director at Kairos, to give us a closing prayer that has been used throughout this campaign. And so one more time, the gracious words. Tanya, please.
Thanks so much, Shannon, and thanks so much to everyone for being here. It's really quite inspiring to see how many of you showed up this evening to support us. So thank you. And thanks to all of the people who've been coordinating this work. It is not a small effort. And so I'm very, very grateful. And now to close us out, a prayer. Loving and gracious God, help us understand that we have the power and the duty to act against the injustices that bind people in poverty and debt. Grant us the courage to challenge the structures that perpetuate these conditions and the strength to work tirelessly for a world where every person can achieve their full potential. Inspire our hearts with your compassion and justice. Empower us to be bearers of hope and agents of change. Together, may we help bring forth solutions rooted in fairness and equity, economic systems that uplift and create hope for the downtrodden, and a future where every nation can walk the path of sustainable development, free from the burdens of debt. May we be instruments of your peace, secure in the faith that through our collective effort, poverty can be overcome. Amen.